Well, first of all, I mean, once again, this is the second time we've done this, so we're still kind of learning the ropes a little bit, but it's a little smoother than last time, and we're equally delighted to see everybody. This is a kind of special webinar in a way, because what we've done here is to invite not only our usual target audience, which is owners and leaders of independent agencies, but also people from the creative community within the independent agencies. And it's something that we're very keen to do and to build more on. So especially for those of you who are creative directors and producers, we'd love to know, your feedback on this webinar afterwards, but also if there are other topics or other webinars that you would like us to do, or formats that you'd like us to use, because we'd be very keen to develop more resource online for creative people as well as agency management. So that's my little premise. What I did last time, I'm going to do very quickly again, which is just to say a quick welcome by country, because we won't go through everybody's names, because we have, I think, something under between about, I counted about 60 people coming in so far, and we have 100 or more people registered. So just to say, we really are delighted absolutely to welcome people from Australia, Bangladesh, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Georgia, Germany, Hong Kong, India, Ireland, Italy, Kenya, Morocco, Myanmar, New Zealand, Romania, Russia, Singapore, Spain, Tanzania, the UK, the USA, and Vietnam. So all in alphabetical order, no favorites, but a fabulous spread. And thanks very much, especially to the people from Asia who've got up early in the morning or are staying up late at night, I think, to handle this. And if anybody's on the line from Sydney, I think it's probably midnight, and a lot of Asia Pacific is about 10 p.m. So it's great to see you and to hear you. So I'm going to hand over to Stephanie just to give a little rules and how to do this. And then Stephanie will introduce our much welcome guest, Ramaa Mosley, to give a talk, and then we'll follow up with the Q&A. Steph, over to you.
Hi, let me just take this spotlight video. So as Julia mentioned, my name is Stephanie Fox. I'm from the Network One, and I'll be moderating this webinar today. So the rest of the team is also on the call. We've got Julian Balding, Paul Squirrel, and Lizzie Gold, who you should know by now. So just some housekeeping before I introduce our speaker. I've posted these in the chat box as a PDF, so hopefully you'll be able to go and have a look at them if you'd like to. I'll also go through them quickly now. So timings wise, we have a 5-minute intro, 35 minutes presentation from Ramaa, 15-minute Q&A, and we will finish by 8:55 a.m. Los Angeles time, so you can be ready for your next virtual appointment. Please keep your microphones muted at all times. We'll unmute your microphone if we're calling on you to ask a question. That being said, we would appreciate it if you could keep your videos on so Ramaa has some friendly faces to present to. There will be a Q&A portion at the end, but if you have any questions in the meantime, please send them directly to me in the chat. So to do this, just go to your chat box, and where it says to, you should see a drop-down menu. And instead of everyone, select Stephanie Fox. We'll go through all the questions and we'll select a few to ask Ramaa once she has finished speaking. So all questions should be sent to me in the chat box. And if you'd like to ask the question to Ramaa yourself, just type "I'll ask" in brackets or something like that next to your question. And I'll then call on you to ask your question during the Q&A. If you're feeling a little bit shy and you prefer for me to ask the question, that's absolutely fine. Just say so in the brackets next to your question. So you should hopefully have your Zoom meeting mode set to speaker view. If not, just click speaker view at the top right of your screen. Our speaker, Ramaa Mosley, will be sharing slides on her screen. So if you can't see her speaker window when her slides are on, just select show active speaker video. If you have any technical issues, just email Lizzie Gold directly in the chat, or email Lizzie at lizzie.gold@thenetworkone.com. I think you've also got Paul Squirrel's mobile number if it's really urgent, but maybe try not to all call Paul at once. We will be recording this webinar. We'll be sharing the slides afterwards, so there's no need to take notes if you prefer not to. In the unlikely event the system crashes, just wait a couple of minutes and log back in via the link that you were sent from Zoom when you first registered. If you'd like to follow Ramaa on Instagram, her handle is @adolescentcontent. So yeah, now just to introduce our great speaker, Ramaa Mosley. Ramaa Mosley is an advocate, director, and writer who made her first film at the age of 16 years old, winning the United Nations Global 500 UNEP Award. Over the past 20 years, Ramaa has directed feature films, TV episodes, and hundreds of award-winning commercials, building a career directing action and genuine human stories. She was named one of Shoot Magazine's top 10 female directors and is represented for commercials by Station and represented for features and TV by John Offland and APA. Today, Ramaa heads up Adolescent Content as founder and creative director. Adolescent are a media company based in LA, representing and developing Gen Z and millennial directors working in youth advertising, entertainment, and marketing. Ramaa's company exists to provide the technical support to a team of 30,000 talented young people who can produce outstanding content now from anywhere in the world. Adolescent already work for some of the world's top independent agencies, Wieden & Kennedy, for example, and for world's leading brands from Nike to Clearblue. So today, Ramaa will be talking on the virtual production process, how young producers and creators are now able to produce cutting-edge film and video content without the need to actually be there. In this webinar, she'll tell you how it's possible and answer any questions you may have. So I'm delighted to now introduce Ramaa.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. So a couple things. First of all, we are also joined by my partner, Hope, and so I'll introduce her as well. We've been working together since we founded Adolescent in 2013. Adolescent is a global Gen Z creative consultancy and content studio, and we actually work with 3,000, although hopefully soon it'll be 30,000, Gen Z creators all over the globe in 20 different countries. We create pipelines, pathways for young people who otherwise wouldn't have a career to be able to develop their career. So young people in inner cities or rural neighborhoods. And our mission is to help brands to effectively communicate to Gen Z by utilizing Gen Z creators. So we do a lot of different things. You can see us on Instagram at Adolescent Content. We also have a digital platform where we have content made by young people for young people, and that's adolescent.net. And then of course we do advertising, and we work both alongside partnered ad agencies who maybe are the AOR and we handle Gen Z, or we work directly with brands. We do a bunch of different things. You know, for the past 6 years, we've been functioning about 80% of our business has been virtual because our creators are all over the world. And then with the pandemic, we transitioned smoothly into virtual production. And there was a lot of learnings that were happening already before the pandemic, but we thought as we were shooting dozens of productions that it could be helpful to many of our teammates out there, you all, to hear how we've been working and how we effectively have handled production, because I know that for some people it's a bit of a mystery. So that's what this is about. And I want to introduce Hope to kind of talk to you about what we do, and then I'm going to take you through how we handle virtual production. Is it possible, Stephanie, for you to pin Hope? Hope, if you raise your hand, we can see you.
Yeah, I believe if Hope just starts chatting, then I'll be able to pin her video.
Yeah, so Hope, if you start talking.
So glad to see all of your faces around the world. So as Ramaa mentioned, we're a global Gen Z agency, and our whole mission is about connecting brands and agencies to young people authentically through utilizing their voices. And we've been doing this for the past 7 years. And we do a number of things. We do I think Rama's, are you going to put up the?
Yeah, I'm going to start the.
Okay. So this is about our virtual production process, but I'll talk first about what we do overall. We have a network of thousands of Gen Z creators all over the world. We're a global media agency, really. We do research and insight utilizing those Gen Zers. We do creative consulting. We function as a Gen Z ad agency. We do think tank work. We make content. We're a content studio and also a content library. So we have content that's been made by young people in a library that can be licensed by brands or agencies. We do social management because, of course. We do influencer marketing. We do traditional media distribution. So our research and insights arm is all has years all over the world. Some of them are creators, some of them are writers, some of them are normal kids. And out of that, culture reports, ethnographic videos, and we can even tap that group to give consultancy work, all powered by Gen Z. But we do strategy, we do consultancy, demand plans, brand campaigns.
Hey, Hope, I can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else is.
You can't?
Yeah, I'm also struggling a little bit with the sound. Sorry.
I'm gonna just pick it up and keep running with it. So
Thank you.
So everything we do is powered by Gen Z, and we have a digital brain trust in which we utilize these creators in all these different countries, much like you would at a conventional ad agency, to help ideate and pitch. And so it's a software that we have created to be able to interact with our creators in these different countries, and we pitch, and we do everything from ad, TVCs, digital ads, to branded content, to even TV series, which really actually are web series, so I shouldn't call them TV series. And of course we have our content studio, and we have thousands of creators. Like just, right now we're finishing up a production in which we had 13 different creators in 10 different countries. And then we also have our library of footage and stills that are available right now to be utilized by our creators. And this is just a quick page of some of the work that we've done over the past few years. But what we're going to do is, slide into the virtual process conversation. And I'm going to start here. So one of the things that we do when we are beginning a virtual production is identify, obviously it's based on the creative, what the level of experience is with talent. So we've done a number of productions, 24 specifically since the pandemic started. And it really, we first identify, does the talent have experience with cameras? We did a big project for a pharma that I can't show you yet because we're under NDA, but I can kind of talk loosely about it. And essentially, it was originally supposed to be shot in Los Angeles on big sets that we were building. And then the stay-at-home order happened and now all the production canceled, but the client decided they didn't want to cancel. And so the talent was in different parts of the United States. And so the first thing we had to do was determine, did they have any experience with cameras? How were we going to be able to shoot if we couldn't actually go into their homes and shoot? And so we designed a situation where we would send them out a very easy to use camera, teach them how to use it, walk them through. Now, everyone is different. Some people need experience on how to shoot an iPhone. Some talent has experience shooting with DSLRs in the case of our creators. So it's been really easy in many cases to get very high quality content and to shoot almost seamlessly, high production content. And then in other cases, we need to bring in a tech partner. And I just want to say first off that we would never recommend doing anything that breaks a quarantine or puts anyone in danger. So we're really, really careful about assessing each location, state, in the case of the United States, each country's rules. For example, of our creators in Spain were not We absolutely make sure that the creator is not leaving their home to go shoot this content, or, you know, Dominican Republican, we're making sure that we're following all those state laws. But again, we're figuring out based on the talent, what their experience is, and then driving the technical aspects based on that. So if someone has no experience and that talent has to be in the creative, then we're training them. And we actually went through the process of training people who had never done any kind of filming to become almost like their own filmmakers, which is a really interesting experience. And then we were able to set up a virtual video village and allow our clients to watch the shoot as it was happening. I'll go into that a little more detail. The second step is to figure out what the camera approach is. So if the person has no technical experience and we know that we can't bring in a camera crew of any kind, there's a couple different options. So the one is iPhone 11 has been a brilliant tool. I'm sure many of you have used it. It works really well for us in the case where we don't have talent with experience, because you can set the settings to 24 frames per second and shoot at 4K. And then you've got a beautiful big image. You know, the light, the shadow, and the highlights are rough, but it worked for the pharma job that we were speaking about. And so what we did was we taught them how to set the phone up, how to, I mean, we had to do everything because these people did not know even how to set the phone up. We sent them a tech box, which was the camera, a computer, a MacBook Pro, a ring light, and a stand. And we literally walked them through for 2 days. We mapped out how we were going to shoot this with them, showed them how to download Zoom, and we were able to essentially set them up so that they could be their own filmmaker and we could watch, and the directors could direct. There's the second option, which is where a camera is operated by a friend. Either it's the iPhone 11 or it could be a DSLR. So that's the second option. Third option is where the camera, let's say it's an Alexa Mini or a Canon C500, you know, just the next pro camera, can be set up on a remote head inside the home of the talent. And now we've done this, and it is tricky, but it has worked. And what it means is that you bring the remote head on the stand, you place it outside the person's home. The person then has to bring it inside the home, and we have our operator outside in the car, and they're operating. Now it works, again, it's all creatively driven, like what is the idea and how can it be serviced in this way? But in that particular job, it worked because it was very much like, I'm gonna capture someone in their house doing various things. And so the camera was able to be operated and pivoted and looked around the room as the person moved and to go in closer. And so that worked. And then the fourth option is, of course, the option where it's kind of like the duh option, but it has to be handled carefully, where you send in one person to operate the camera. And we've done this as well, where it was safe to do and where the state did not have such strict quarantine rules. And that, of course, makes it a lot easier because it means that you're sending in your camera operator that you know and you trust to film. And they also will have sound. So we select technicians that we know that can kind of be a one-man band. And so those are the ways we approach the virtual production, looking at what the talent experience is, looking at what tool is best to fit it. And so going into our virtual production, you know, this is like an overview, a very quick overview, which is first identifying the creative and how the talent fits within it, then designing a tech plan that works for that project, you know, again, what the camera is, and then going through prep and creative and really spending time to make sure that everyone is on board. So we do everything from the virtual fitting. So we have our wardrobe stylist shopping for the talent and then sending clothes, to art department, you know, looking through and doing virtual director scouts and looking at the location and then sending art department that works, you know, all the way through to the PPM and prepping and making sure everyone's on the same page and designing out what the virtual video village needs to be. In some cases, of course, clients are completely okay with like saying, I don't need to be watching. I trust you, go ahead and, you know, execute. In some cases, the client wants to be watching as it's being shot. And we've experienced both and been able to design for both. So, and then of course the shooting process and then the delivery. And so this has come from years of having done this, where we were virtually shooting with creators, you know, from like a project for Netflix where they needed 4 different assets shot across 4 different countries. And essentially we handheld our creators and made sure that they knew how to do what they needed to do and deliver the creative. And then we did PPMs virtually, and then they sent in the content, and we iterated on what they had sent and asked them to shoot a little bit more, and then we deliver. All the way through to, of course, where a client wants to be watching. And that gets just into technical things like, do people have the proper Wi-Fi to be able to participate in the virtual video village? Just a little note about the conversation around virtual video. The really easy way to do it, the simple way to do it, is using Zoom. And you know, what you can do is, if you're using an iPhone 11, is you can download Zoom, and the creator, whoever, or the talent who's shooting, can set up the frame of the camera, and you can watch, just like we're all watching. Like right now, we could patch somebody in who's doing it on their phone, and then give them notes about the setup, and the director can actually be directing virtually to the talent. The other way is, of course, you can set it up on the computer, and the computer's in the space watching the talent, so you can still be talking to the talent as they're shooting, but you're not able to necessarily see what's on their camera. The problem with Zoom and with the iPhone version is that once you go to shoot and you click out of Zoom and you go to camera, you aren't able to watch exactly what's happening on the camera. So the secondary, and it's more expensive, and it's a little more tricky, is to actually have a true virtual village. So we have a number of options for that, and some great tech support here in Los Angeles and in New York, although we haven't been able to use it in New York because it's much stricter there, where we can set it up where we do a remote feed from the camera. So this means that it has to be either a DSLR or a pro camera to be able to do that, but you have a remote feed going out, and then the tech support is sitting in the car, basically like a VTR, and then they're able to stream it to the client and to us, and we're able to talk. And we would still have the computer in the space so that the talent can hear us, but you're able to see exactly what's coming out of the camera. So that is the 2 options that we've been using in terms of Video Village. And it's brilliant when you have a client that doesn't need to see it as it's happening. So again, the steps are: identify the talent, determine their level of experience with shooting, share the production brief with the talent and go over the creative and technical requirements of the shoot, and then do a virtual location scout of the talent's home with the director. And then of course your director, or creators working with a stylist in the wardrobe and making recommendations, and the stylist does the shopping online and sends wardrobe. The director presents locations and wardrobe and art department in the shot list to the agency or to the brand, for approval. And then of course there's the whole tech phase of like determining which camera is going to be the right one, and creating a tech brief, and rehearsing with the director and the tech team, and then shipping all those items off to the talent to have. And then you go and do it again now with your talent. So the tech brief is shared with the talent, and the director and the tech team review production plan with the talent. And then you do an official virtual tech scout. And let me just say that we've done productions where we've done all of this within a 5-day period. We've also spent 3 to 4 days on some cases just rehearsing tech, depending on how complicated it needs to be. You of course do a virtual PPM to make sure everyone's aligned and review. And part of that virtual PPM has to be a rehearsal really of the virtual video village that is outlined, and practice what is appropriate communication between the brand or between the creatives at the agency and the director. So it of course is not going to work to just have everyone talking. So coming up with a stream of how communication is running is really key for a virtual production. and Virtual Video Village. What we've seen that works the best is if everyone is on Zoom and everyone is muted and the director is the only one speaking, except for the AD, who will come in and at the right point, obviously not when they're recording sound in the moment, say, okay, we're moving on to this next shot, or thank you. And then notes, the stream of notes are given via another platform like WhatsApp. And it's given first to the producer and then streamlined to the director, because it's really hard when everyone is sending notes all at once. I directed a piece about 4 weeks ago in which I did allow for the agency and then the lead creative directors to both be in one. So I had one earpiece speaking with the talent, and obviously I was watching, and then I had another earpiece where I was speaking with the agency. But that's because I like to work really closely and have my agency creatives right next to me. I just feel like it speeds things up. But for some directors, depending on who you're working with, that may be overwhelming. So it's like a lot of people ask for just a consolidated situation with notes. But this is a real thing, is workflow and how you're communicating notes. The other version is you just, work with a creator that you trust, and you put all these things in place, and then you let them go, and you allow for potentially needing to reshoot elements that weren't picked up, or you just are not, super persnickety about something. Like if it was a shot was, captured in a wide shot, and you really wanted something tighter, you just kind of let it go. So after you've gone through the whole shoot and you're doing the notes and videos being captured, at the end of the day, we arrange for the content to be picked up by courier and delivered to the DIT. We also have had situations where we have the footage uploaded to Dropboxes or our FTP site. What I will say about that is that if that's the way you're going to go, then you really want to make sure that when you are sending out to talent the camera, the phone and the computer and all that, you're sending out a jetpack, like a mobile cellular data jetpack, which we've all should have some experience with, where you're doing when you're doing a tech scout, you will be in a van and want to have Wi-Fi, and the van will have Wi-Fi. It's coming through a jetpack. So here in the US, we use Verizon or AT&T jetpacks, and this will just ensure that the Wi-Fi is working, and it's really a key part of the whole production, is having that Wi-Fi working. So we've made a bunch of content. I can't show you everything just because we're under NDA and a lot of it has not been released, but I'm going to show you a couple just loose pieces, and I'm not going to go through them in depth because I want to leave time for questions, but I'm going to show you little snippets so you can get a sense of the things that we've done. So
my name is Winter.
Here's
Winter
one
Dunn,
piece.
And I live in LA, California, and I'm a cool black girl here. I would say I have a lot of experience with microaggressions. Ever since I was a kid, people have always noticed how dark my skin is and has always made a point to call that out. And I remember when I was really young.
So that's a part of a branded content campaign that we did. And again, this was all done with
I'm Jess.
creators who could do it themselves. So we sent them the equipment, they executed on their own with their camera and a mic. We sent the backdrops and all of that.
I feel so blessed around the people that I have been fortunate enough to meet. This is my community. The thought of losing a memory means a lot to me. That's sad. I want to continue to be able to look back.
So this is for Fuji, and this was shot in Arkansas, and Arkansas has had the least strict rules. And so this family was all in quarantine together, the friends and family of about 8. And so they were able to execute this without breaking any quarantine rules because it was much more lax. And then this is a little bit more of a technical there's the technical challenges to
The
this
best
one.
version of yourself is the one that's at your core.
So in this case, we had a camera operator,
And left only delicious ingredients you can feel good about. So you can
and
indulge
we
in confidence.
sent them into the talent's home to execute. And they had to do everything. They had to do food styling and this is an example of content that's, again, under the heading of, there's no virtual video. This was for Fenty, and the creator just went and shot with a roommate. And I just thought I'd show you some of the creative work that our creators are doing that aren't for brands, but just things that they're able to make at home. So a range of things. We've been working a lot with Converse, and so most of what I'm showing you now is falls under the heading of like the first few pieces did have a virtual video village. Some of these pieces that I'm showing, their social assets, were not virtual video village. They were like, creators were just making the content on their own with our supervision of, you know, the process. And this like more lo-fi vibe works really well for Gen Z, of course. So I'm going to just stop the sharing of the screen. So there's so much more that I'd like to share with you that I can't yet, that's even more polished in terms of like, you know, I mean, you know, just polished, high production value. So there's a range, as you can see, in what we've done, but there's more content. And as we're able to share it, we'll send it back to Julian and Stephanie, and they can send it out with you. But I would love to open it up and just see if anyone has questions for us and how we can support you with your production situations.
Thank you so much, Ramaa. That was great. We've had a couple of questions come in. So one person has said, could you please tell us about a problem you encountered and how you overcame it? So, for example, what did you wish someone had told you before you started?
I think definitely the Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi is a huge problem that we had to troubleshoot, because up until the pandemic, we weren't really needing to rely on Wi-Fi in the same way that we do now in order to be able to watch. So I think that's the first thing. And we learned that very, very quickly. We learned that, you know, in the first, I think mid-March, when we were in on a production and the Wi-Fi kept dropping at the creator's location. And so that was a challenge.
Ramaa,
Yeah.
I'll just add to that, product delivery has been a challenge for us. So shipping product internationally and having our schedules lining up with those deliveries and then having that not happen, we've had to be very creative in some instances with how creators mimic having the product when they haven't been able to receive it.
And I would say, and I'm not recommending anybody do anything that's illegal, but I would say that I just want to keep that disclaimer, you know, going. But we had a product that, you know, it normally would not be a problem, but because of the pandemic, it raised red flags. And, you know, what should have arrived and did arrive in other countries within 2 days, it got stuck at customs. And so we ended up sending it again in a plain box with, you know, very minimal description, you know, like very generic, and that it then got through. So to Hope's point, that was a big learning, and that although we had 12 productions going on for the same client at the same time, half the product arrived where it should, half of it didn't, and we learned how to like readjust to what to say on the customs forms for the product. And also ultimately just, you know, if you're dealing with a packaged goods, sending a empty bottle as opposed to something that actually has any product in it, and then just saying this is, you know, a bottle sample.
Great. So we've had a couple more questions. So one is from Karen Gardner. So I'm just going to quickly find Karen. And Karen, if you could maybe unmute yourself to ask your question.
Yes, hi everybody. Hi Ramaa, thanks for this presentation. One of the challenges that I'm running into for remote productions are costs. Clients feel that user-generated or self-filming should cost nothing practically. I'm in the middle of trying to build new cost models, and I was just wondering how you've handled that, or if you've built new cost tiers for our creative work.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think Hope can answer that better, but I'll just say that, you know, we run into the same issue, and here's the thing, it all is about what people are willing to do. Just like in anything, you know, even in normal life, it's like how, you know, what people are willing to do. What we have found is that because we're working with Gen Z creators, their ability to be more nimble and their ability to be happy with a lower budget than, you know, somebody who's maybe in their 30s is, you know, they just have a willingness to collaborate and they want to make work. And so, but we have built out pricing. We've gotten clear on our pricing, what that is for the various levels. And it's really based on, of course, the creator's time, our time managing, and we still put in costs for equipment and tech support. And Hope, do you want to fill in? So the question was around pricing and budgets for virtual production, and just how clients don't want to spend as much because they think it's UGC.
Sure. I mean, I think the thing to say is that there are cost savings in some areas, but then there are higher costs in others. For instance, a virtual video village scenario, particularly if the client wants to see things that are being shot around the world, that cost is significant. So as always, people want a lot for not as much, and we try to be as efficient as possible. And if, you know, they don't have budgets to support doing it in the way that we feel it needs to be done, we just find out what areas we can compromise on, right? So we try to work on what are the goals and how can we achieve their goals in high quality with budget savings. And then the other thing that we've done in some instances is, which I think a lot of people are probably doing, is utilize found footage or footage from our location, our library, and mixed that with live action shooting, and there have been some cost savings there. So I think
yeah, and I know we're not exactly answering your question. If you want to talk offline about it, because I hesitate to tell you how we're pricing things, because there's such a range. I mean, I think we could do it in generalities and say there's projects, you know, just depends on like how much we really want to do the work too. You know, if it's a client that's currently with us and we're trying to help them and they need to save money because of the pandemic, then we're going to make concessions versus somebody coming in for just a project-based, you know, asset. But, you know, we've done everything from content for, you know, $4,000 for an asset to, you know, normal budgets that are upwards of like 500,000. So, and probably there's even less in there too, because we've gotten a lot of requests for existing content that can be licensed. And in that case, and it can run the gamut of like $500 to, you know, whatever it is. But happy to like fill in and share with you some of our pricing if you want more details about that.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Harps. Harps, are you there?
Yes, thanks so much, Lizzie. Hey there, it's Harps here from London. I've actually got a live project that we are planning to shoot next month on location. It's for I can't say too much, but it's for a well-known breastfeeding pump brand. And we're doing a how-to. And whereas the how to use, it's not a complicated product, but we need to make sure that we're troubleshooting the right aspects of that breastfeeding pump. Therefore, normally we would have a technical client on set saying, okay, so this is a major troubleshooting factor. This is how to get around it. And they'll be checking we're filming it right. And also the added complication is we're doing over the head sort of shots on this. So quite tight close up, speeding them up, slowing them down. And I'm just finding it really difficult to work out how a talent will have the expertise to even set something like that up on a, well, I don't think it's happening on an iPhone, but how would they even go about setting something like that up on location? And we want to shoot in it's a pretty high-end production value job as well. So it's going to be quite a lavish house, like open plan kitchens and lounge and stuff. So I'm just trying to work out a continuity plan. We do have something in place that we've got some guidance on, so a limited crew, etc. But we need to have a plan B, C, if that makes sense. And we wonder if you had any kind of experience or thoughts how we can overcome that. The good thing is we're only using one talent.
But I mean, the first thing I would ask you is the talent, the expert, because that would be the thing that I would be looking for. Because then you don't have, if the talent isn't the expert and you have to have the expert weighing in, then of course it just comes back to like the expert being able to watch the footage that's happening and weigh in. But the easiest thing would be if the talent were the expert, which there's a lot of breastfeeding young women who are currently breastfeeding and who are experts. So that would be what I would be looking for. But I think then the secondary thing is really around what you were talking about was the camera and, you know, how to shoot this. And there's so much I would need to know to totally understand how to advise you. But like, if let's just say the scenario is you can't have anyone coming in to be there with the talent, and the talent has to operate the camera and also be in the piece. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Then I would do what we did with the Pharma Job, which is using the iPhone 11. And I've been really happy with the results of that campaign. You know, teaching, you basically have to go through a couple of days of teaching them, and you need to send them equipment that they can easily set up. And the best way to test it out is to have somebody on your team who's never done production, like actually physically done it, to try doing it and walking through the steps to learn.
That's me.
Yeah, and then you see that you can do it, and then you're able to then teach another person how to do it. And so, I mean, when you talk about overhead shots, of course, that does get slightly more complicated, but there's definitely like offset plates that you can get to, you know, to get on a tripod and then get an offset plate that allows you to look over the talent, things like that. That's what I would be building out, but you definitely want a really good, I would say a good DP or a camera operator to help you in your decision making in and around what equipment to be getting, you know, and then put the package together. You try it out. Once you know it works for sure and you've got everything, then you send that package to the talent and walk them through how to practice putting it up.
The talent is a mom, but the product hasn't even been launched to market yet. So she might need to work with a prototype therefore it's not going to be working properly. Hence, we need the technical expert definitely there tell us this is what's going to be wrong with the product. That's the challenge. Otherwise, I would have sent to the product by now and got her working on it, getting familiar with it, but it hasn't even been launched yet, and we'll be working with prototypes. So a few challenges there. And just one more final question. Are you finding that models are charging you more for their time than if you're having to, normally we wouldn't engage with a model until shoot day, but if we need time with the model to prep them, get them familiar with the camera, are they charging you for that time, or have you come across anything like that?
Yes, I think, yes, definitely. I mean, for sure, people need to be paid, and, and a lot of people, although they want to be working, they're more hesitant to do production. And so, I would say 50-50. We have to pay people for their prep time. I mean, we like to do it anyway, and try to break out the fees so that it just shows that it's there. So like, let's say if the fee is, 10, then we're going to say, we're giving you 5 for prep and 5 for shoot, or, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but like, so that they feel from the start that that's what it is. And it's really important to know those numbers going in. It's easier to negotiate at the beginning than it is after you've started negotiations. So
cool. I have heaps of questions, but that's been super useful.
Feel free to email us. We're happy to weigh in.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Our next question is from Alex. Is Alex there?
Okay, here I am.
Hi.
Ramaa, thanks a lot for the stuff that you showed us. I'm Alex from Bangkok. I see the authenticity that is in the work that you've shown to us at a very high level, which is something that is hard to fake for some over-professionalized people like us that are joining this meeting right now. I have a couple of questions. One is, what is your recruitment procedure? Because you say you have 3,000 contributors or content creators in several countries, and you will probably not have an interview face-to-face in Los Angeles. How is that being done? Or I see the problem, okay, this can be done by video interview, but have you been let down by some people that maybe you invested time and money and equipment in, and at the end of the day, they didn't care about your deadlines or your professional work ethics?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the vetting process for us is that we're looking at the quality of the work. We actually try to get the creators to first make content for adolescent.net, which is our digital platform, and we don't monetize that. So we take a portion of our profits and we put it into giving grants to young people. And it allows us to see how they work on a deadline, how they work with pitching and then delivering the pitch. And in that process, we're able to identify who's able to deliver on a pitch. So a lot of people will pitch, do these great pitches, and then when they deliver the video, it's nothing like what they said it was going to be. And so that's one of the ways for us to quality control who we have within our creator network, and know their little idiosyncrasies. What was your second question?
Have you been let down by people that you thought you invested time and money and then they didn't deliver?
Only on very small projects for social. And that's when the budgets were low. And I would say I would blame it on our team. I'm kind of a big believer in taking responsibility for things going wrong because I've grown up as a director. A lot of people think like, oh, when something, goes right, they're like, it was me. But when something goes wrong, it's like, well, that was everybody else, everyone else's problem. In the case where we were let down, I sat down with my team, our account managers, our account directors, our creative directors, and I just looked at the process at what the workflow was. And I realized there was problems with our process, which was we expected things. And the problem with expectations is, that they are different for everybody. And so we would expect things like, if we put in a guideline form, don't have any logos on in the background. And then the creator in this one case sent video, a complete video with like everything had, Nike logos or the Mac, logo. And it had to be completely reshot. But, you know, the team was very upset and was like really upset, and we were behind on timeline. But, you know, I just sat down and I just said, like, look, you know, this is actually a very talented creator. Although we were let down on this, this is ultimately us. So like, what can we do? What's the step we can put in place to mitigate any kind of, you know, mistake? So other than that, I would say that our creators haven't let us down. It's just about us and our ability to manage people. And and that's really the best way for me to support you all to look at it. It's easy to blame somebody else. It's much more useful to find out what you did wrong that didn't help that person to execute properly. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people out there who are just totally irresponsible. We haven't worked with them you know, we may have had 1 or 2 projects in the past, definitely not during the pandemic, because we've only been hiring the creators that we know can really do it. So I'm not saying there isn't those situations where people are just like, whatever, but usually it's an influencer. And that's one of the reasons why we do not work with influencers. Like, we don't represent influencers. We represent people of influence, but I find a lot of times with influencers, they blatantly will disregard the creative guidelines. They won't deliver, they'll just go off on their own, do whatever they want. And so careful management is like really key, and it's also time consuming. So I don't know, Alex, I hope that helps you in some ways.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, let's see it.
We just have time for probably just one more question. So I'd like to call on Khushbu Vasar, if you're available, Khushbu.
Yeah, hi. This is Khushbu. I work with an agency called Chlorophyll. It's a brand consultancy based in Mumbai. So I have like 2 questions. One is more logistic. One is obviously, do you have an ecosystem that is, who can provide production in Mumbai? One is that. And second is more from the brand's perspective, especially in this time when, brands are, one, trying to connect to the consumers, but also, are crunching on cash. So how do you see brands spending on production, and what kind of brands are spending on what kind of content?
So, okay, your first question was, do we have creators in Mumbai?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We don't have that many. We have a total of 10 across India, and we have 3 creators in Mumbai. I'm just looking in our channel. So we do, that's the first question. And then your second question was about the brands and their budgets, and also what kind of content that they are making or should be making.
So my question is more because, there are, so for example, Tide, I just saw a campaign they're running that is called Angels in White. They're using stock images and stock videos. Similarly, I think even Surf is doing so. That's what I at least see on YouTube. But what I'm asking is, what kind of brands do you see at this time, want to, produce some content? What kind of brands do you see, and what type of content do you see them producing?
I mean, it's all across the board. We are launching for a beauty brand that's, primarily CBD skincare, and we're helping them with their launch right now. And the content, I mean, here's the thing. We all know that making content right now is really tricky, because if you make content that's just like what you normally would make, then it's a bit tone deaf. At the same time, if you make content that is about the situation that we're all in with the pandemic, then it's just like everybody else. And I actually want to post in the chat channel a video that someone did. It was a compilation of all the content that has been made by some of the biggest brands. And literally one thing does not look different from another. I mean, it's like everything is looking the same. I think that said, brands still need to be making content right now, and they need to be connecting. And, I think the wisdom says that you should make content that meets people where they are, right? Like Because if you put out something that's tone deaf, you're going to get bad, bad response. But how do you meet people where they are? It's such a, there's so much to say. I personally feel that what brands should be doing is making entertainment. I just think that any commercial right now in some ways feels self-serving. And I say that while also helping clients to make, ads. But I feel like a good use of money, and money that would go far, is actually to just come up with making content that's entertainment as opposed to traditional advertising. I don't know that people are going to go, I haven't had a client that took me up on that offer, but I'm posting, by the way, this, if you look in the chat Slack, if you click on that, it's hilarious. So basically it's a compilation of every ad that's being done, at least in the United States, but it's also in Europe. And it's just, it all looks the same. For us, what we're doing is really working with our Gen Z think tank to try to identify what it is through a research process that people really want to see, what these Gen Zers want to understand and see, and what they appreciate from a brand, to then make content based on that. So we're using research to drive really where the creative goes. And that's how we've determined what to make for any given client, and most of our clients have been really just amazing. I mean, I would say all of them have, and that they've come to us because they know we're experts with Gen Z communication, and they just trust us. So if we say, make a branded content like microaggressions and don't do an ad, they trust us to do that. I know I'm not giving you like all the answers that you probably need, but it's such a big conversation. And I think if you take a look at what I just posted, it'll depress you and also make you laugh to see what we were all doing the same things, guys. We're all saying, in this time of struggle, we're here for you. And it's like, and that's great. And we do need to say those things, but it's fairly repetitive for the audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
So yeah, sorry to cut you off. Thank you so much, Ramaa. I am just going to wrap up now because we're only around 2 minutes over time, which is fine. But I just like to share my screen so that you've got Ramaa's details here, and also Hope Farley's as well. So I just like to give a really big thank you to Ramaa for the great webinar. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that this is working correctly. Excuse me. So if you didn't have time to ask your question to Ramaa, we've got her details right here. You could even write to her on Instagram if you want, so that's at Adolescent Content. Or you could email Hope Farley as well, who's also a founder of the business. Or you could go to the website, which is www.adolescentcontent.com.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I see a little typo in my email. There's a C missing after the S.
Apologies. Sorry.
But no worries. But thank you so much for hosting us.
No,
thank
not
you
at all. No, thank you. So just another couple of things before I let you all go. Just wanted to say that we have another webinar tomorrow as part of our Webinar Wednesdays series. So tomorrow's webinar is called Leading Agencies Through a Crisis, and that's with guest speaker Elisa Mitchell. So Elisa's from Nashville in Tennessee, and she's a 3-time successful agency CEO and a former president of the International Communications Consultancies Organization. So Elisa will be talking about lessons we all need to know now. She's an electric presenter. She's really walked the talk. So future webinars can be found on our website under events at www.thenetworkone.com/webinars. Thank you all for coming. We really hope you enjoyed it, and